Hey, what's going on? How's everyone feeling? Hope you're all doing well. Second day of Black History Month. So far, I haven't heard anything crazy yet. I don't think anyone's. Actually, second day. First day was already nuts, but yeah, second day seems okay. How's everybody doing? Hey, Huey Freeman. Hey, I Sound Info. What's going on? I saw this cool video today. Check it out. I thought this video was pretty prescient. Prescient, like it really kind of shows how things have not changed. And this thing, it was a joke, but it also had a lot of truth to it. But I think it was meant to be satire, but it's more realistic uh, than ever now. But this really, I think, drives home where we're at these days. Hey, Pensiev of Door, what's going on? Check this out. Hopefully, this doesn't cause a copyright strike. But let's see.
What's the matter, Tom? You look down.
Well, I hired another white incompetent applicant for a management position and gave the overqualified black applicant the entry-level office job again. I feel so terrible.
I know what you mean, hon. I called the cops on some black kids that were asking for donations for the United Negro Scholarship Fund. I just assumed they were gang members. I feel terrible, too.
Has this ever happened to you? Well, now you can unload your guilt in minutes for only $5.95. That's right, $5.95.
How?
By simply dialing 1-900-YT-GUILT. Your call will be answered by an educated militant Afro-American person. Press 1 for housing discrimination. Press 2 for job discrimination. Or press 3 for plain old scared your daughter might marry one of them fear.
This is the Minister Louis Farrakhan. And what is your crime?
Well, they had a vote for affirmative action on the job today, and I vetoed it.
Why? Are you afraid that if given a position of authority in that office, that black man will repay you for your 300 years of oppression?
Yes, that's it.
Or is the real fear that you'll be standing side by side in the executive washroom and accidentally look over and be reminded of your anatomical inferiority?
You are so spot on. Please continue. I deserve this.
Well, wait, honey, I want to talk, too. Hello, Mr. Farrakhan? I'm his wife.
Hello, white wife. And what is your crime?
Well, I have this terrible distrust of black people. In fact, a man was walking behind me today, and I became so afraid I began to run just as fast as I could. And even though he wasn't chasing me, I felt as though he wanted something.
Don't you see? It is your own admission of guilt. The fear is your fantasy of what you really wanted from him. Yes. To be taken away to the motherland, set free to run naked in the jungle, begging to be dominated by the masters of that land.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, don't hog it. Mr. Farrakhan, I have one more confession.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
But wait, I was just about to denounce my race. Listen, if I call you back, will you browbeat us some more?
Certainly, you small-minded, anal retentive piece of trailer trash. I threw that one in for free.
Thanks. We'll call right back.
Call 1-900-YT-GUILT now and let one of our angry Afro-American operators put you in your place. You can unload a whole day of guilt in just minutes.
Well, I feel so much better. Let's watch Arsenio.
Dial 1-900-YT-GUILT. Abusers are standing by.
Yeah, man. I saw that one. I was reminded of that one today, and I was like, this is what the whole anti-racist industry basically is. You know, it's just like instead of black men, you just have a different black du jour. Your septum ring crowd. They berate them with the intersectionality instead of. I mean, I think it was also kind of a joke because I think Sh- Farrakhan had no interest in being that. Farrakhan had no interest in being that, but they do. Yeah, yeah. So it was it was pretty funny. Vita's in the back, but I'll let her add herself when she's ready. She didn't seem to be ready yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then with all these anti-racist reading lists and all these things they always ask for every time someone gets shot and give us stuff to read, educate us. Like that Whitey Guilt phone call was basically white people today asking to get their privilege checked. And it drives home what we always say about in these situations, in this BDSM type of situation that is, privilege checking and white guilt berating, the customer, the client, the one that in charge at the end of the day is the customer, the white person, you know? Yeah. Oh no, I mean that's old. That's that. I mean, it's not particularly clever to say white tea for whitey. Like that wasn't something created in the 80s. I'm sure you can go back forever and find that. Yeah, but that was pretty funny, But I think something in general is that in general, I think media today is dominated by black women, but there was a good stretch where black men really were the black people du jour in the media. From Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, etc. Boondocks, In Living Color. I mean, it was very black men centric, and now I think it's a lot more black female centric. But what I wanted to talk about today is I want to talk about how it's easy to get on these new blacks for a lot of the things they do, especially some of the weird anti-black stuff that they do. Um, oh, here goes Vita. But I was going to talk about how I think when black men, when we had the focus on us, I think we dropped the ball first. And I want to throw out the idea that maybe we brought a lot of this stuff on ourselves, like a lot of this black men are trash stuff that's happening now. How's it going, Vita? What's the good word?
It's great. It's going good. I was sick last week. I'm less sick this week, so I'm great.
Oh, good, good, good. So you were still feeling sick despite testing negative for COVID? You still had that cold or flu,
I had a
whatever?
no, I had a brand new cold,
Oh man.
but it could have been brought on by the vaccine because that's what they tell you when you get the vaccine.
Oh.
Because not because they're not giving you the virus, but your body is basically fighting off a virus, like as though it's fighting off a virus.
Yeah, I mean that's supposed to be how it's working. Yeah.
So I started getting some colds. Plus, on top of that, LA has had some really insane weather. We'll literally go like from 80 to raining the next day, which is super unusual for here. So it's been kind of crazy.
Oh, cool. Hey, Gen X, you were supposed to write me about getting that thing I was supposed to give you, that thing I had lying around. Email me at champagnesharks@gmail.com. I see Gen X 74. I think it was them. Yes. Oh, there we go. See, no one ever says T. You're looking cute. Never get that. See?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Don't
Yeah.
forget to donate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on Twitter. People were saying, I told you, people own the simping thing. He's on Twitter. That guy said that. We can't wait to simp for Vita.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff for sure. Super chat if you're enjoying the stream. The super chat if you're enjoying Vita. PayPal at champagnesharks@gmail.com. Venmo or Cash App, Champagne Sharks. All the stuff's going to be floating by in the bottom. So you don't have to worry about remembering all that stuff. If the spirit hits you, if you like the information we provide, will make you laugh, by all means, do that. And of course, patreon.com/Champagne Sharks. to get all the perks and bonus episodes and extras that we offer. And yeah, other than that, things are going okay. Did you see that skit that I just played from In Living Color?
I did, and funny enough, I like vaguely remembered it. Not because I know I haven't watched Living Color in even in the reruns in a very long time, but I actually remembered that one for some reason. From like I feel like I watched it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. Mostly because I actually don't remember hearing the term white guilt said a lot until I was in college. So I didn't even then I didn't really understand what white guilt was, because in my mind I didn't feel like white people felt guilty about shit. But I think that skit kind of gives you a good idea in a humorous way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's called white guilt, but I think a better term for it is like white shame. You know what I mean? Like it's
Like what you described it. You kind of like it's like they're, what do you call it, like S&M for
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So let's see. Why was it gonna say? Oh yeah. Here we go. I should have had this pulled up, but yeah, I was going through stuff, man, and I'm telling you, we uh like I was thinking about all this stuff. For example, good hair. I was talking about, okay, a lot of people talk about, oh, these intersectional feminists or these blavity blacks. They're always bashing black men. Everything from just the regular run of the mill intersectionals to the divestors to the blue checks. It's always about bashing black men. But I was thinking about all the times that black men had the spotlight and were using clowning black women to make white people laugh. And I think that was like a real thing. Like, if you look at Good Hair, when I rewatch Good Hair, I felt like a lot of that was about kind of making black women the butt of the joke.
You know what's funny? When I first saw it, because remember when that movie came out, it came out pretty much at the height of the online natural hair movement. And if you're not
Did it?
familiar,
Okay. Sorry,
yeah,
what?
I don't know if you probably already knew about it, but some people don't know that was an actual movement that was like brand new, because all of a sudden we had all these black-owned hair care products that were just blowing up online, to the point where big companies like Target started having them in their stores, and some of them were actually some of these places were getting their own stores and stuff, right? So like Oyen Handmade, what's the girl's name? Two girls, one of them committed suicide. Miss
Miss Jessie's. Yeah, Carol's daughter.
But
Yeah, I remember all that. I just didn't know it was that old. So this is news to me.
Yeah, that was like at the peak, really.
Oh, okay.
When that movie came out, it was promoted heavily in like all the message boards. This is before Twitter even really got big. I don't remember if Twitter was even popping or even existed at the time, because the natural hair movement was on message boards and blogs. And so when that movie came out, they promoted it in the natural hair space. They promoted, because that's who was going to go see it, right? And then when I went to the showing in LA, they had some of the owners of like hair products that were really popular online at Magic Johnson Theater, where I saw it. And so it made it like a big black woman celebration thing. Then you watch the movie and it's just making fun of black women, saying that we don't like our hair. And, then he went to the different stores talking about he was selling African hair and, that kind of shit.
Yeah. And I remember there's a scene, I think, where a black weave was like a tumbleweed and it's blowing through the hood and stuff like that. And like I just feel like there was a lot of...
It had no real depth to it. It wasn't like... So I actually did a black hair documentary, a short one. It's not out, but I released some indie thing.
Oh, cool.
And what we did is we took that conversation, because we actually were mad about the movie Good Hair. So what we did is we went and we started interviewing people who were black hair historians, people who owned hair care businesses. There's an organization called the Black Owned Beauty Supply Association. People don't even know that exists.
Yeah, Bobsa is what it's called, right?
Bobsa, yeah.
Hmm.
Also the natural hair, the black hair care industry in itself is interesting, right? But we talked about like how the Great Migration affected how black people saw themselves in their hair. People don't realize that when people come from the South to the North, the expectation was that your appearance was supposed to change. And remember the constant demonization of black looks. It was constantly said you look like a savage if you had your natural hair, both men and women, right? So even though granted hair thing is like usually a woman thing, we did include the fact that men were also affected by this. You were considered lowbrow, savage if you were a black man with kinky hair. That's why they started selling conks, and people tried because they wanted to look like they had quote unquote good hair. So black people moved from the South to the northern cities. They get up there. The black people who have already been there and were established were like, oh no, y'all some country bumpkins. I can't come up here looking like that. And so what they would have to do is they'd have to straighten their hair. So it was so many other complex things that led up to where we're at now. And I thought it was a really unfair piece. I didn't really go into the history and even how slavery affected how we saw ourselves. Remember, they were just so in different countries in Africa, in different tribes you were in, your hair was that was your status, who you might have told you who you were in the community. What if you had if you were a medical person, if you were a part of a certain family, all those things. So your hair was extremely important. One of the first things they did was they cut off black people's hair, but really black women's hair. So that was like one of the first things that happened. So we were traumatized as soon as we got here, but none of that was in good hair.
Oh yeah, it's very surface level.
Extremely, because like you were saying, I feel like it was like you were saying, it was a way to make money off of making fun of black women. The sad part is so many of us bought into it, including myself, because I went there to see it when it premiered in LA.
I mean, before you see it, I don't think you can be blamed. But afterwards, I think a lot of people still didn't really kind of get it. I think it was just so natural. Like I was trying to find this clip for today, but it is scrubbed off the internet. You cannot find it. If anybody can find this clip, please send it to me, because it's Chelsea Handler and she has Neil Long on her show. Maybe if some of y'all saw it, you could remember this, but she's low-key throwing all this kind of nasty shade at Neil Long and black women's hair. And I felt like Neil Long was on there, I think, to promote good hair. I think she appeared in it.
Yeah.
She participated in it. And I felt like, I remember when I saw that, was the first time I realized, like, oh, this is something that a lot of people are going to use to clown black women. And because it came from a black person, they feel okay doing it. And it's a very testy exchange, because the kind of shade and the shit-eating grin that Chelsea Handler's trying to throw it, and Nia Long, calls her out and says, white women wear weaves as much as anybody, and all this stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it was like, oh, we wear weaves to match our own style of hair, but your weaves are trying to match, someone else's. It was like a lot of low-key shade in it, and I think it's not a coincidence. It's scrubbed from everywhere. I cannot find this thing anywhere, even on stories that used to have like old blog posts. You hit the play and it's gone. Even places that have a ton of because she's trying to be woke now, and I feel like her people must have taken down that clip.
That's a real thing. They literally go through and start scrubbing shit if you have the right people in your corner. That doesn't surprise me, because that was kind of my annoyance in general with the conversations around natural hair, even by black men, or because I felt like it was about shaming black women. Like, how dare you not love your natural hair the way it is? You know what I mean? And there's so many complex reasons why we may or may not have a certain feeling about our hair, right? It might even be about how I feel about my hair. For some people, this is all I've ever known. This is what you do. And when I went natural in my family, one part of my family, they live in the Midwest, and this is before anybody was going natural. And they were like, so what are you gonna do with your hair? So it was my cousin's wedding, and my aunt was like, so what are you gonna do with this? You gonna do what with it? I don't understand. You're in the wedding. I don't understand what you can do with your hair. And because she just, in her mind, if it's not straight or relaxed, what the fuck else could you possibly do with it? Because she's never learned any other way to do her hair.
Mm.
So when I had my hair done, all I did was get it braided in the front, and I had like twist out or something in the back so it looked big and curly and looked a little cute design in the front. She was like, "Oh, I would have never thought." She didn't even cross her mind that was a style that was possible with your natural hair because she had never seen it. So there's so many complex things that are underneath that really irritate me when people just try to make it out like, oh, Black women just don't love themselves and there's going to be like white women, which I think is a really unfair statement. Don't get me wrong. I think there is, and I think that's the other part of it is I think because some of us who are allegedly woke and we have these perspectives already about hair, and we might even be well educated and well versed. When I went natural, it wasn't a style for me. It was literally a thing that I was doing for myself. And I was like in 10th grade, so there was no natural hair movement at the time. So I had no idea what the fuck to do with my hair. I just didn't put a relaxer in it. Excuse me. But at any rate, I felt like when you have conversations around Black women's hair, you have to be able to look at it deeper than just they want to look like white women. This is the style this is what existed when I was born. You know what I mean? This is how people's hair looked. I didn't know that there was another way, you know? But
also, even let's say they didn't want to look like white women. Let's say that was even true. Worst case scenario. Like let's stop the worst case scenario of that argument. It's like 400 plus years of relentless propaganda and subjugation. Like it's not really a flex that makes it's not really like some kind of objective like, hey, everything made equal, this is what we want. It's not like people were sitting around in Africa pre-colonial times just saying, damn, I wish my hair was straight. Like it's not some natural thing. Like it's a any type of fixation like that. Like someone pointed out that in Malcolm X, when they get the conch, one of the characters says to the other, it looks real white, doesn't it? You know, one of the men said that to the other. I think it was Malcolm to Shorty or vice versa. You know, that doesn't come about because of some natural merits of the white people. Like anybody with hundreds of years of like, you know, oppression and subjugation is going to put those thoughts into somebody's head. It's not like
look at places in Africa and the Caribbean that have been colonized and they have the exact same issues. And they're all Black people over there.
Yeah. So, you know, this idea that that's some kind of thing that you should be flattered about, or this shows how, you know, gorgeous we are. It's just abuse. You know what I mean? You can get you can put a lot of things in people's head with abuse. So it's that's why that smug shit eating grin by Chelsea Handler I thought was so disgusting, because to brag about that, you gotta be bragging about the subjugation and slavery and abuse, because that's where it came from. Low key, that's what you're bragging about when you're bragging about you know, stuff like that. You know, and she knows, looking at herself and looking at Nia Long, she knows she's nowhere close. She already looks older than Nia Long. And
I was gonna say Chelsea Handler looked old since she's been out. And she's been out for a long time. She's always looked old and unattractive. So I always could never figure out like her stories and how she would talk about her like life story, like, oh, I was drunk and I'm fucking these people. I'm thinking to myself, God, you're really an unattractive person. So I don't see, like, how is this your life? You're not cute.
But I mean, I was thinking about a bunch of stuff, but there was that good hair thing, and I there's this thing on Twitter, not Twitter, on YouTube, by this guy called Aaron Ranen. Aron is his first name, last name is Ranen, and he did 2 black hair care documentaries. One from I think like 2009 or 2008, and then one like 7 years later we updated. That's where I learned about Babsa. And he did, it's a white guy. I learned about Babsa from him. And he did such so interesting. I mentioned the Handler video before, and I saw an info say he found it back then, but sure enough, it has vanished from the web. That's interesting. I wonder if my big mouth got it taken down. That's funny, because I think I mentioned it on Twitter one time. Yeah, but it was by a white guy, and it was so well done. And he put the context behind it. He gave a bunch of I mean, it still wasn't going as deep as what you said, but it was much better than because I only saw that movie relatively recent, Good Hair, and I was really disappointed by just how just mean spirited it was. It was just
Oh yeah, and remember they tried to make it out like black women don't buy black-owned hair care products, and they, that this is now they're buying off from the Asians, and what
yeah.
they don't. What was interesting, the guy who at the time when we interviewed him, the head of BOPSA, he gave us a whole history on the black hair care industry and basically how it was L'Oreal in particular purposefully ruined black companies, and they said
Yep.
that they said they were going to do it, and they did it. It's literally in an article where they announced that they were going to basically buy up all the black-owned companies, and they weren't going to exist anymore. And that's literally what happened. They made it impossible for them to compete with them, and then basically destroyed them.
And also, I didn't know this, but this is in the Aaron Rannon thing. If I'm gonna give the title of it so people can see it. But I think he interviewed that same person you're talking about. He talked to a lot of people in BABSA, and this is for people who see I think so. The guy who made the documentary is white, but the person he interviewed is black. But Aaron Rannon's black hair documentary is what it's called. And then there's an update. But one of the things they talked about was that the Korean government, a lot of people don't know this, helped the Korean Americans do better. They put pressure on the government and got these special rates and all this stuff. It was really interesting. Let me see.
Oh, and remember also, and I don't know if they said this in that documentary, but I had also read a while ago that it was also, and I took a class actually that said this. The government essentially made it so the Korean beauty supply people and beauty industry was targeting black communities. Like that wasn't an accident. It was specifically to black communities.
Yeah, exactly. But believe it or not, Korea itself had a role to play in it.
Yeah, now that part I didn't know, but that makes sense now because it sounds like that was a deal that was cut, because it's like, why? How were you only in black communities doing this shit, or like dominate? That's in they're only in black communities. They dominate in black communities.
I think I might have found the part. It should be a couple minutes, but let me see if I can find. I think I found the exact part that talks about this.
Nia Long is beautiful. They're talking about Nia Long in the chat. I don't know, like they're all talking about Nia Long in the chat. Nia Long is beautiful. So,
thank you for the compliments, Stephanie. Stephanie threw me a pity compliment because she saw all the ones you were getting, but I'll take it.
You are very beautiful.
There you go. Hold on.
Who makes Stella? They are pre-sale wholesalers, and they make this product. Actually, they make a copy of the other brand. Like
so it's a copy of a black brand.
A Plus, but their brands, they're no good quality.
Not good quality.
No, just copy for the others.
They are really trying to shut us out of the industry.
They're telling you they will no longer distribute your product in these stores?
They tell us that our product is not in demand any longer, but that's just an excuse not to purchase our products.
This is actually a T-bumper by Kazuri. I use it all the time.
This is the place to be, a black hair salon in San Jose, California.
I might have gone back too far.
I've actually seen this. I remember when this came out.
We have a setup
it was going all around on. Let me go ahead a little bit though.
Get this under control where we control the industry and not let someone else come in.
Here we go.
To wear our hair short. Industry, we are a nation within this nation, and we're just giving everything away, and we cannot do that any longer. We have to stand up and fight. We are beautiful black people. If we have to wear our hair short, so be it. Let's wear it short, but let's get this under control where we control the industry and not let someone else come in and then set up and take all our revenue out of the community.
But can Mrs. White and other black manufacturers fight back against this? New Star Beauty Supply, the largest wholesaler of black beauty supplies on the West Coast. New Star also manufactures their own products for sale to the ethnic market. Mr. Moon is manager of New Star.
We are the number one biggest the ethnic distributor.
So this guy's the
West
guy.
Coast. Yes.
You guys are.
We trying to like one-stop buying now.
We took them as being a friend, and that they would not come in and try and take over the whole industry, but that's what they have done. And they got in, now they control it, and they are really
And I was thinking, like, what if Chris Rock with his platform, like, talked about something important like this instead of just clowning black women the whole time? You know what I mean? But then again, maybe it wouldn't have gotten made or celebrated.
Probably not. You see where this one is.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go a little bit further. I'm trying to find the exact part where he's talking about how the government,
boasting about it, and they're talking about it, and then they're laughing at us all the way to the bank.
I think it's coming now.
How do the Korean retailers get the money to start up these
Okay, here we go.
stores?
This is the part.
To find out, I traveled to the University of California at Berkeley and spoke with Professor John Lee.
Many of the ones that started recently came from South Korea that was much more enriched. So by selling their farm or by selling their apartment, they could have this initial pot of money to start relatively small businesses in urban areas.
So what he says, a lot of people in Korea, they're not like the poorest of Korea. So, you know, because people always have this image of immigration being like the poorest of the poor, but they were able to sell their product, their apartments, their houses, their property in Korea, and come here with startup capital from jump.
Furthermore, they had encouragement, sometimes quite explicitly in terms of funding by relatives, friends, and other sorts of religious or whatnot networks to provide them with money to start their business. So it's fair to say that there are all sorts of formal and informal means by which Korean Americans and South Korean business people dominate the market and are implicitly unwilling to let competition challenge their dominance.
These are the two magazines. They're all in Korean. I mean, does that seem like fair business practice?
Yeah, well, as I said before, this is one of the mechanisms by which South Koreans and Korean American merchants ensure the domination of the market.
I'm trying to get to the part where they talk about the government, because that's the part.
Later, I learned that what we're seeing now, the Korean domination of the black hair industry, had its start back in the early 60s with the help of both the Korean government
Here we go.
and the United States government. This is Chosun, one of the most respected newspapers in South Korea. And it's inside the archives of this newspaper that I discovered a document from 1965 in which the wig manufacturers in Korea convinced the Korean government to ban the export of raw hair, making it impossible for anyone to manufacture wigs from the highly desirable Korean hair population, except for the Korean manufacturers themselves. And 6 months after the Korean ban on the export of hair, the United States government banned the import of any wig that contained hair from China. This ban on Chinese wigs virtually locked in the wig business for these South Korean merchants. So it seems that what we're seeing today, the Korean domination of the black hair industry, had its start with the help of both the Korean and the United States government almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of crazy because a lot of it was just respectability politics. This whole thing, if black people work harder or just like their own hair or, just band your money together. But there's institutional stuff at play. There's governments, families, wealth gap, generational wealth being passed along,
And that's why I get annoyed with black people who feel like it's wrong to tell the Democrats, if you want our vote, you need to give us, have an agenda or listen to our agenda or something, like the fact that we're just okay with putting people in power to advocate for us and they don't, it's mind boggling because there was nobody there to be like, oh no, this is going to fuck up the black community in their industries and what they have going on. And I try my best to go to Black-owned beauty supply stores and buy Black-owned hair care products. I try to research products to make sure that the owners are Black-owned, not just putting Black people on their pictures or in their website, because that's another thing that they do, is they'll put Black people who look like they're owners on their website, and they're not owners at all. They just work for them.
Or sometimes they have them in the store. Like I remember I went to this place I wanted when I had hair and I was getting hair products. I went to the place and there was a bunch of Black people working there. And then one day I asked them, I said, "Do any of you guys like own this place?" You know, and they're like, "No." And I said, "Who owns it?" And they all got kind of quiet. And I started realizing, oh, they just have the staff, but it's probably
Well, that's the new trick in LA too. So
yes.
what they do,
Mhm.
liquor stores and beauty supply stores, which are usually Asian owned, are always hiring Black people now. So I find that to be really interesting as well. Like I go to a beauty supply store and I'll see all these young Black people there, and I'll be like, "Oh, who's the owner?" And you'll see some Asian person in the back, you know, and oh, that's the owner, or they're not here right now. It's so and so, and it's an Asian name. But I try my best to find Black-owned beauty supply stores. But the thing is, even if you get a Black-owned beauty supply store, most of the products in order for that beauty supply store to survive are not going to be Black-owned products. There's a Black-owned beauty supply store not far from my house, and they tried to pretty much only put Black-owned products in their store, and they could barely fill their store. And on top of that, people go for certain products. They run into other products when they're there. So if I'm used to always buying this other brand and you don't sell that brand, I'm not even going to go to your store. So it becomes extremely difficult for a lot of these stores to stay open if they don't also sell these other people's brands. Thank you, Don. Is that 6? Don 6?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at Roman numerals. Thank you so much for the donation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. You know what else too? That's why I, even though like I don't fully 100% cape for socialism, because I don't always trust that the white socialists will take care of Black people fully.
Right.
I'm never one of these people that's ever like totally against it or saying, you know, fuck socialism, capitalism, you know, whatever, because these people practice socialism of their own all the time, you know, and they hide it from us. Like you as a Black person can't be turning down help from the government, and then you find out these Korean people who from the outside were looking at a superior capitalist and thinking, oh, it's that because a lot of Black people elevate other people and races all the time in ways that are unwarranted. So they'll be like, oh, those Asians just work harder and whatever. Because no, they're practicing their own type of socialism. They are practicing their group economics. They're working to get stuff from the government, you know, and different.
And they have a whole country advocating for them.
Exactly. So even though I you know, don't go full bore socialism, I think that socialistic things are necessary because everybody used some kind of redistribution and some kind of government help or whatever to get where they were. Even the white middle class, all that stuff was created about, you know, if you read that book, When Affirmative Action Was White, you know, you'll totally see it. But everyone's done it. Very few people made it just on their own.
None of them have. Not a single one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Another thing I really hate, and I think I said this before on the show, is this constant trying to compare us to other groups as though we have the same circumstances. We're not. You know, we're very, very different being Black, and we're very, very different if you're Black and not an immigrant. Like, it's a whole different experience. So I don't understand why we continuously try to compare ourselves and say, oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing because that's what they're doing. They're doing what they can with what they have, and they have more than us. They have a whole country, a government advocating for them, cutting deals for them, saying, hey, look, let me tell you, you think when those Chinese students got killed over here by USC, that was a big international incident. People don't even know. That was a big fucking deal. That was not far from where I live. I was going, I think I might have been out of USC at the time, but I still was in the area, right? And when that happened, the Chinese government was hot. And they had to basically make that whole neighborhood, which by the way is South Central, into a highly police secured, like there's all types of security over there now, because China was like, we will not send our students over there if you don't have shit straight over there, period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Like like even their students that come here, their government is always advocating for them. We don't have that. And so we can't compare what these other groups are doing. And sometimes that you think they're doing, they ain't even doing that. We idealize other races too much.
We do all the time.
But
all the time. Another example I didn't notice until recently. Back in the days, there was a hot second where they were lynching Italians, and there was this kind of Italian lynching trend. I think particularly like Sicilians, South Italians, Southern Italians, and the Italian government put a stop to it. They word got back to Italy, and they put a stop to it. It's called the New Orleans lynching. For some reason, in New Orleans, they were just lynching Italian people like crazy, and Louisiana recently apologized for it, for the mass lynching of Italians. But I think something like 300, something ridiculous. But I think the biggest mass lynching might have been. Let me see if I can find it. My computer's going slow, but in New Orleans for some reason there were a lot of Italians moving there, but they had about 300,000 Italian immigrants between 1884 and 1924, and there was a lot of pushback against them, and they just started lynching Italian people like crazy. There was a big wave of anti-Italian lynchings, and then the Italian government, like, people don't realize the power of having a homeland with some.
Why were they being lynched? I know people had a problem with Italians, but what was the reason for them wanting them lynched? So, I know why they lynched Black people, but why were they lynching Italians?
Well, in general, Italians and Irish, it sounds crazy to think of now, but they used to not be thought of as white.
No, I know that.
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out for everyone in general, and I guess they thought they were just coming in too large numbers, like 300,000, and they weren't assimilating properly. They were probably taking jobs. I know some people didn't like the Irish. They thought that they were messing up the I mean, kind of like Mexicans, they're willing to work for less or whatever. So all I can see is anti-immigrant sentiment. I'm sure if I research it, okay, here we go. I found something. Some of it is what I said. I'll pull it up right now. Someone said probably some anti-Catholic sentiment too. Yeah, it probably has something to do with it. So he says immigrants. Yeah. So they lynched 11 in one particularly gruesome lynching where 11 Italians were lynched. Immigrants who came to the U.S. from Europe and Asia in the late 19th century often confronted hostility. They were accused of taking American jobs during a time of economic depression. Italian immigrants who often had darker complexions became the focus of pseudoscientific theories that trumpeted the superiority of individuals of Northern European heritage over Mediterranean types. I know what they're talking about. There used to be these kind of flyers and posters that kind of showed Irish people and Italian people looking like apes and being of a different race than American wasps and stuff. So there was an incident called the David Hennessy incident. New Orleans police chief David Hennessy was gunned down by unknown assailants while walking home from work. Rumors began to swirl that as Hennessy lay dying, he used a derogatory slur for Italians to identify his murderers. The fallout was devastating. Individuals of Italian descent were arrested en masse, and 19 people, including a 14-year-old boy, were indicted in connection to the crime. There was no solid evidence against them. Of the 9 sent to trial, 6 of the accused were acquitted, and the attempt to prosecute an additional 3 men ended in mistrial. And yet they were thrown back in prison with the rest of the accused, making it impossible for them to escape the violence that was to come. News of the acquittals unleashed a fury in New Orleans. Residents speculated that the mafia had influenced jurors, and local papers urged citizens to gather in the streets and take steps to remedy the failure of justice. The mob, which included a number of prominent New Orleans, pushed into the prison and shot and mutilated 11 men. Yeah, and then outside the jail, the larger mob cheered as the mutilated corpses were displayed. Some corpses were hung. What remained of others were torn apart and plundered for souvenirs.
Yo, how weird you gotta be okay to just do that? Like, think about how fucked up in the head you have to be to just do that and then cheer for it, take pieces as your fucking souvenir and shit. That's just fucking weird. If I think about lynchings and that kind of weird shit, you gotta really be fucking sick in the head. Like, these Europeans are weird, man.
But it also shows how important, like, the identity of whiteness is, because it really is like a protectant. Like, you know, when Italians weren't thought of widely as white, you know, that mental, it was okay to do anything you wanted to them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they wouldn't have done that to. I mean, you have white bandits and killers who get much more humane treatment in the Old West and those old times than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see why people hang on to whiteness so much. It's really the biggest come up in this country. Nothing is a better come up for.
That's why people say that they're white when they come over here, even if they're not. Like, in their own country, they wouldn't be white, but somehow when they get over here, they check that white box.
Yeah, and the Italian government had a big part in stopping that. But yeah, having a homeland with power, because I don't think Africans really have that you know, ability to call on, say, you know, Ghana or something, you know,
right,
to apply pressure. But yeah, it's a beast. Check out this one. Talking about black men dropping the ball. You ever see this clip? This one surprisingly is not taken down. A lot of the other ones I look for.
I do remember this, but go ahead.
Yeah, this was a bad one. Tell me if you hear the sound.
Yeah.
And then let's face it, you know, he called them hoes and nappy-headed hoes, and they weren't hoes, but it was some nappy-headed women on that team. Shut up! I'm gonna say it. I don't give a damn. Y'all like it or not. You know it's true. Them are some of the ugliest women I ever seen in my whole life.
Right.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Ross here. Thank you.
Yeah, that was really tacky.
That was disgusting. And it was mean. Like, these women are already dealing with this shit from this white man, and now it's all over the, you know, having him publicly say that shit, it's all over the news. And then and on top of that, I remember other people calling them that as well. And here comes a black man who's famous, has a platform, and is on a white platform, and not just any white platform, one of the biggest platforms in America at the time, and saying these horrible things about these black women. That is not the conversation. I get you're a comedian, but your jokes have to go a different way. Your jokes go towards that white guy and how fucked up he is. You don't target the women who are your women who were the victims of this attack. Like, that's just. I disagree that D.L. Hughley was never funny. I think he was really funny back in Comic View days. But I feel like being funny is no excuse to be a coon. That's no excuse.
Yeah. And there was another thing that happened, but I cannot find this anywhere. I used to be able to find this. The site that had it has it taken down. But Damon Wayans did the same thing. I could find an article about it, but I can't find the clip. But
that doesn't surprise me either. But I also kind of feel like sometimes the Wayans family be on some.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I can never quite put my finger on it, but something is off. This is the video.
Dance a lot for white people. That's what I really believe.
Yeah. So you see this thing here? This is the video. It doesn't work anymore. I've searched everywhere for this video. It's gone. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think a lot of these people, maybe something goes viral on Twitter sometime, and then they remember, oh shit, this exists, and then they take it down, because they used to be on linked to on Twitter too, and it's gone. So I have to read it, but it's much more disgusting if you actually see it in action. It says Damon Wayans stuns the ladies on The View. The comedian says he has no problem with Don Imus and women should cook. This is some other sexist stuff. He said Damon Wayans riled up the ladies on The View Wednesday morning by saying he had no issue with Don Imus for using the phrase nappy-headed hoes. Freedom of speech. What happened to that? What happened to expressing yourself? Wayans, 47, said in reference to Imus, the shock jock who was fired in April for making derogatory remarks about the Rutgers women's basketball team and was recently hired by a rival radio station. Wayans added, at least I know where he stands. And you know what? When he called them nappy-headed hoes, I went, wow, he's right. Then that got the co-host and the audience shouting over each other. But Wayne said a person's reaction to a statement like that depends on his or her perspective. Quote, black people at home are laughing right now, he said. White people are going, that's not right. It's all cultural. So he's basically saying, white people, you're making too big a deal about this. You have permission from the black community to, you know. And then he said some other stuff. But yeah, in both cases, like in the Jay Leno case and the audience, like, you know, they were booing and yelling at him, and I feel like these used to happen a lot.
That shit is fucking. I didn't even know about the Damon Wayans one, and that's even. I don't know why that bothers me even more, because he's trying to like totally make an excuse for it, and then trying to say, "Oh no, black people feel me on this."
Yeah.
And to me, even if that were true, all you're doing is highlighting how fucked up we are. If we are laughing at that, you know what I mean? I don't think we were. I think that's something he said to rationalize it in himself, because that's probably what he and his friends were doing. And that's my other thing. I think sometimes comedians hang out with other comedians and they forget what real people actually think. Because there was nothing okay with trying to make excuses for Don Imus. And the whole freedom of speech shit is like one of my biggest pet peeves, because nobody's taking away their freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Like, you're not in jail for what you're saying. So what are you talking about? Don't just throw that shit out there, because freedom of speech does not mean everybody has to accept what you say and like it.
Yeah, and it's not the government that's, you know, at play here. You know, that's what freedom of speech is. Like, you know, it's private. It's a private company. People get fired all the time. You know,
they might not want you representing them. If you work for me, you represent me. Why the fuck would I want you working for me?
Yeah. I'm sure if Damon Wayans goes to a store and the person starts dropping N-bombs at him that works there, you know, that's supposed to be helping him, you know, he'd be upset. Like, you know, the person couldn't say freedom of speech. Like that's not what freedom of speech is. But you know, I think it is too with comedians. I think a lot of comedians, to come up in the white world, you have to sit there and swallow a lot of racism from your white peers, kind of like that clip of Chris Rock when they're talking with the N-word right in front of him, and everyone's like, how could Chris Rock do that? But if you're coming up in comedy circles, you're backstage, you're hanging out, you know, it's kind of like how some women try to become one of the guys and be extra misogynist to kind of show that they're cool. If they're like the uptight black guy, they're not gonna be able to go far, you know, networking or hanging out, you know, with the white comedians. So I think they kind of developed this overcompensating personality where, hey, we make fun of everybody. This is just how we are, and it's their way to be able to sit through it without feeling like a sellout. You know what I mean? This kind of
Thomas is here because he would kind of even give us better insight. Because I suspect everything you're saying, I think is right, and I suspect that to be true. Only because I know TV writers is kind of similar. They're comedic TV writers, because most of them are comedians, or they had to have done comedy in order to be a writer. People still don't know that. And a lot of times on certain shows in their contracts, it says you have to be okay with some offensive things being said in the writer's room. I know Friends had that policy. Basically, you couldn't even sue them for sexual harassment if they were making sexual jokes in the writer's room, because that's what you signed. You said that this is part of our process of writing. It's how we come up with jokes, so you can't take offense. So I do believe that is something that is racism or whatever else is supposed to be like accepted, so people can be creative. So I really don't doubt what you're saying. I also think it's really sad as Black people that we feel, because the thing about the Black comedy circuit is it's much like any other circuit that's independent of white people. It's like you're pretty much only in Black spaces. What happens is people like D.L. Hughley, for example, want to break out of that, right? Because D.L. Hughley was in the Black comedy circuit, right? He wanted to be mainstream. He remember he got a TV show. I mean, he was doing it. And I think what you're saying is right. They have to kind of be like okay with the racist shit in order to be in that space and in that network. Because those are the powerful, those top comedians are the power players. You know, your Jerry Seinfelds and your Adam, what's that guy's name? Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, very powerful people who I don't think have very much talent, but they're very powerful.
But then you gotta imagine the people like the Adam Carolla types, or I mean that Gen X crowd.
One perfect example.
Those people like, you know, the Seller crowd, you know, those old club comics, you know, that you have to deal with. I feel like these new alt comics have a different type of white racism, you know, and that's the kind of white racism that these new black female comics probably cater to, where, you know, they're talking about being thirsty for white guys all day and that weird new brand of humor that they have. But I think back then it was like a guys, you know, the Seller, Colin Quinn, Opie and Anthony. So it was a different, more old school, I'm a Boston racist guy type of racism. And that's the kind that
Anthony.
What's that?
I forgot about Opie and Anthony.
Yeah, you know, but I think the edgelord shock jock culture is kind of going away, except for like maybe that Legion of Skank stuff. I think, you know, this new alt comedy type of thing is happening where, you know, like the Two Dope Queens type, but that's its own type of cooning. It's slightly different. It's that one where you just
that's not even funny. Like that's just not even.
You
can't even squeeze a guilty laugh out of that show, like, or those girls. They're not funny, and then I don't think they're really comedians either.
Yeah, a lot of them become comedians to break into other things, you know. So yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Chris Rock and those guys will legitimately be funnier, just misuse it. Like Damon Wayans has funny stand up. This new crowd's not even like funny. It's painful. It's like
it's real cringe.
Yeah, exactly. Unintentional cringe. But check this out. This is something that was really interesting that happened. Don Imus dissed them. Don Imus, he came out. Don Imus blasts black supporters. Don Imus wasted no time getting back to his old ways after an 8-month layoff over the now infamous nappy-headed hoe comment, blasting black comedians who championed the shock jock's offensive remarks. So he outflanked them and made himself look good. He's like, Damon Wayans and D.L. Hughley have both made public jokes about Imus' comments, implying that his critique of the Rutgers women's basketball team was accurate. None of us should say it, Imus said of the comments he made. Wayans and Hughley should talk to those women at Rutgers if they want to know how they feel about it. It was demonstrated to these young women that there are consequences to what you say. Hughley appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno in May, defending Imus' right to free speech and co-signed his remarks that cost Imus his job. Imus called them nappy-headed hoes, and they weren't hoes, Hughley said, but it was some nappy-headed women on that team. He went on to say they were some of the ugliest women I've ever seen in my life, received with subtle laughter from the audience. Controversy may have propelled the veteran broadcaster to new heights, as he was named one of the 10 most fascinating people of 2007 by Barbara Walters. During the interview, Imus said used the platform as another venue to take a stand against his own offensive words. I will never say anything in my life that will make any of those young women regret or feel foolish that they accepted my apology or forgave me, he said of ABC's Barbara Walters. Despite a multi-million-dollar settlement with his old employers, CBS, Imus publicly stated that he should have been fired for his actions. So there's a lot going on here. First off, there's a lot of fake, I think, humility, but, you know, he used those guys to make himself look good, as saying what I did was wrong, what I deserve to be fired. Those women, what I did was hurtful to them, and you black guys should talk to them if you want to hear, if you really want to see how funny those things were. And so I mean, like, what did they get out of it? You know, it's just so. I mean, even the guy they're caping for threw them under the bus to make himself look good.
That's pretty much what happened. It was almost, the difference was he wasn't excusing himself, but it's kind of like when people deflect to, well, black people use the N-word.
Exactly.
And, you know, which is another one of those dumb things I hate. But, and which is funny because even in that one, people were saying like, oh, it wasn't that bad. He didn't use the N-word. I remember that too. And I remember being like, what? Like, that's the only thing that could make something racist is if you use the N-word.
Yeah, I also forgot that those women forgave him as well.
They were probably forced to. You know how that shit go.
Yeah, exactly. Especially being on the team and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, it is interesting that people complain about free speech and stuff. But he got a multi-million-dollar settlement with the employers and got a new job. So,
but he should have been fired.
Yeah, and he even admits he should have been fired.
That's what I'm saying. He said, but I should have been fired. But I'm gonna get this settlement.
Exactly. So why would he fight for the settlement if he really thought he deserved to get fired so much? You know. So that adds to the disingenuous thing of it. But yeah, but it also shows like, why are you crying for this guy? You know, he's getting away with something that you wouldn't have gotten away with. You probably wouldn't have gotten away with a fraction of that, and gotten a multi-million-dollar settlement from it. So
I think I kind of see, like, in a way, I guess not so much Damon Wayans, but I guess D.L. Hughley, and I'm not giving him a pass for shooting him bail at all.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking I could kind of see like that being a joke you say just amongst your friends because your friends know you're not an asshole. You're just trying to be funny for that moment. And that's what the joke sounds like. Like before you even saw the video or the picture, you might say some shit that you might say, right? But I think sometimes what happens with not just comedians but people in general is I think they forget or like these are not your homies who know you're not really an asshole and who know you don't hate black women or whatever it is. Like you're now representing something. You're on a stage. This is bigger than just you and your little friends having a little funny joke. This is like now you're portraying what the conversation is going to be about this situation. So instead of it being about this racist guy, you deflect, well, hey, they were nappy-headed hoes, or they were nappy-headed men. So, you know.
No, it's. I would agree, but just one thing that really bothers me about it is the View one bothers me more because that one, he could tell it was going bad. Because I think to do it in front of all those white people in the white audience, I feel like you can never forget that you're among white people with an audience like that. But then when they started booing him, he doubled down and said, hey, it's because you're white and too sensitive. Black people.
Yeah, that bothers me more too.
What's that?
Yeah, that's the one that bothers me the most too.
Yeah. That's the part. It's that doubling down. Like I could agree with the forgot himself thing, but he was very conscious and intentional by bringing up the racial difference and chastising them for not finding it funny and giving permission, saying that the black community gives you permission to laugh at this. That's the part that
exactly. I feel like D.L. Hughley is basically the same thing. I was just saying with D.L. Hughley, I can see in his context how that's a joke you kind of just think say. But I like what somebody just pointed out. How did you think Jay Leno was supposed to react to that? Like he's supposed to say, yeah, they were. Like what the fuck was he like? What are you?
Yeah, exactly. yeah. And these people are well, they're not always too smart for that because in that clip with Louis C.K. and what's his name, Ricky Gervais, Jerry Seinfeld was the only one smart enough to say, I'm not touching the N-word with a 10-foot pole. And I don't find any need for it, you know. But but some of those edgy white guys will dive right in and jump right in it, like what Louis C.K. and Ricky Gervais did. But yeah, I agree. Jay Leno's too smart for that. Jay Leno does not want to risk his career at all.
Oh, Jay Leno has practiced being clean cut as possible on his show. Because that show in particular is a very family type show, and by the time that came out, it was pretty much an older mainstream America show.
Yep.
So he definitely wasn't going to touch that with a 10-foot. Like, you don't do controversy. Like, even their political jokes are very
tame. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very tame. There are things that even Republicans could laugh at, or even Democrats could laugh at. Oh, somebody asked about Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, so that was Ted Danson, her man. Somebody answered it in the chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, he performed in blackface at his Friars Club. And this part of their tradition is that they get up in blackface and do like a minstrel performance. And he did that. And I'm sure Whoopi Goldberg defended it because that was her husband, I think, at the time.
And we brought up, I'm not going to show these again because they brought them up in different installments, but I've talked about like Chris Rock's N-words versus black people thing. I'm trying to avoid saying the N-word because I feel like YouTube is unable to tell context and we keep getting strikes. I notice whenever we use it, even though we're clearly not using it, to insult anybody. But N-words versus black people. I mean, when you rewatch that thing was really cringe, So I mean, these people, the same way I say like these new anti-black blavity people, they don't really just hate just black men, but they have problems with the whole black community. It's just that it's safer to focus it on black men, but when you give them a chance, you'll see that they have contempt for all black people. I felt like a lot of these guys had the same thing going on with Chris Rock and the whole N-word versus black people. Or if you saw like the Boondocks had a lot of skits to me that I thought were like really, really anti-black, but they would especially go in on black women. They had a lot of negative portrayals of black women, and they went extra on black women. And this is one story I really remember, which is John Ridley, the guy who wrote 12 Years a Slave. And I think this is why Dave Chappelle ended up where he was, because I think this was so common. Like this is what cool black men are gonna do, is give us license to laugh at black people, and especially black women, that they misjudged Dave Chappelle as one of those guys. And he didn't understand the level that they were laughing at him about. And then when he realized what he was doing, he was like, oh no, I'm not that guy. F that, to his credit. But John Ridley wrote this, I remember, in Esquire 2007. The Manifesto of Ascendancy for the Modern American, I was going to say the word because if I keep saying N-word, it just sounds bad. American nigger. For 11 days in 2001, two blacks ran our country. It's their example and their achievement, and not the culture of failure fomented by the leftovers of the movement, that must set a new agenda for black Americans. This is a really weird story. It was actually published in December 2006. It's this thing about, I think, Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell. And I don't remember the full context of what the rest of the article is. It's very long, but listen to how it opens. This is in a white magazine. He put this. Let me tell you something about niggers, the oppressed minority within our minority. He's doing the same Chris Rock, niggers versus black people thing. Always down, always out, always complaining that they can't catch a break, notoriously poor about doing for themselves, constantly in need of a leader but unable to follow in any direction that's navigated by hard work, self-reliance. And though they spliff and drink and procreate their way onto welfare doles and WIC lines, niggers will tell you their state of being is no fault of their own. They are not responsible for their nearly 5% incarceration rate and their 9.2% unemployment rate, not responsible for the 11.8% at which they drop out of high school, for the 69.3% of births they create out of wedlock. Now, let me tell you something about my generation of black Americans. We are the inheritors of the deal forced upon the entrenched white social, political, and legal establishment when my parents' generation won the struggle for civil rights. The deal: we, meaning blacks, take what is rightfully ours, and you, the aforedescribed establishment, get citizens who will invest the same energy and dedication to raising families and working hard and being all around good people as was invested in snapping the neck of Jim Crow. In the 40 years since the deal was brokered, since the Voting Rights Act was signed, there have been successes for blacks, but there are still too many blacks in prison, too many kids aggrandizing the thug life, and way too many African Americans doing far too little with the opportunities others earn for them.
Bruh, I can't do this. This like that did not have to even like the first half I'm thinking, okay, let's see where this goes. And he lands on but there are still too many blacks in prison. Okay, you're right. That's right. Too many blacks in prison. Too many kids aggrandizing the thug life. I guess, shoot them up, bang, bang, all kids do that. Okay. And way too many African Americans doing far too little with the opportunity. So the problem is us.
Yeah. But also, white people did their part. The good white folks
did what they were supposed to do. And here we are throwing away the opportunities that they bestowed upon us.
Yeah, and this is the same thing that's in the Boondocks with the Martin Luther King speech. It's basically white supremacy is over. White people are great and wonderful. They did everything they're supposed to do. So anything that's still happening is the fault of black people. I'm going to end it with one line because I think, it's just a couple more paragraphs. If we as a race could win the centuries-long war against institutionalized racism, which is a lie, that's the first premise wrong there. We didn't win a war against institutionalized racism. It's not over. But that's the implication that the civil rights, the respectability politics. If we as a race could win the centuries-long war against institutional racism, why is it that so many of us cannot secure the advantage after decades of freedom? That which retards us is the worst of quote-unquote us. Those who disdain actual ascendancy gained by way of intellectual expansion and physical toil, who instead value the posture of a quote-unquote urban, a quote-unquote street, a quote-unquote real existence, no matter that such a culture threatens to render them extinct. Them being niggers. I have no qualm about using the word nigger. It is a word. It is in the English lexicon, and no amount of political correctness, no amputation into the N-word, as if by castration of a few letters, we should then be able to conceptualize this meaning without feeling its sting, will remove it from reality. So I say this: it's time for ascended blacks, which I guess he includes himself and other high-class blacks, to wish niggers good luck. Just as whites may be concerned with the good of all citizens, but don't travel their days worrying specifically about the well-being of hillbillies from Appalachia, we need to send niggers on their way. We need to start extolling the most virtuous of ourselves. It is time to celebrate the new black Americans, those who have sealed the deal, who aren't beholden to liberal indulgence any more than they are to the disdain of the hard right. It is time to praise blacks who are merely undeniable in their individuality and exemplary in their levels of achievement. So this is that,
This is the cooniest shit I've ever heard. This is ridiculous. And it's so fucked up. Like you pointed out, this is an Esquire. Like this isn't even in like Essence or Ebony. This is literally an Esquire. And the whole thing is like those niggers. I don't like using the word because it just feels.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But because the article has the word N-word in it, I felt if I kept using the word N-word, it would confuse the reading.
Right. No, I get it. But to even, first of all, to say in this white publication, there's those black people and then there's people like me, right? We should be talking and praising people like me and just realize those niggas is lost. That's pretty much what I hear from this. And I was just real quickly, I went to his Wikipedia because I was just curious, like, how did this guy grow up? Like, how do you have this particular perspective? And he's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay, there's a lot of black people in Milwaukee. I know a lot of black people in Milwaukee. But then I saw his dad was an ophthalmologist, which is a doctor, a medical doctor. And his mom was a teacher. So he grew up probably pretty middle class with, the ascended blacks. And he now has this shit perspective of black people. I don't think the binary is as rigid as people act like that is in the first place. Because many of us kind of go in and out. Some people in our family are middle class. People in our family live in the projects. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? So that.
And we always slide back much easier.
Exactly. And it's not hard to go from middle class to low income. Like, that's not hard at all. Or to homeless, literally. So the fact that he even has like this divisive perspective that's like really rigid and binary is a problem. The fact that he has this in a white publication is a problem. And then constantly calling Black people the N word and thinking I'm Black,
Hard R.
it's okay with the hard R, that is also a problem. And I'm so glad I never watched any of his shit. I've never watched 12 Years a Slave. I didn't think there was a point in watching it, so I never watched it. But I'm not anti-slave movies. I just don't have a reason to watch it.
Yeah,
But I'm so offended at this. I didn't know anything about this guy until you read this. So I just Googled like who the fuck he was after you did this.
But you know, if you look at everything he's saying, it's all the stuff that we complain that these new blacks say now, except they're smart enough to mask it in woke rhetoric. And the 2000s was a different time when everyone thought everything was post-racial, and you know, racism was over and everything, and the only racism that existed was like minor racism, like, you know, and a couple of rednecks, you know what I mean? So you were able to, so the whole thing was everyone could make fun of everybody because racism is over. And that's kind of implied in all the stuff he's saying about, you know, white people did their part. Our generation killed institutionalized racism, and now you guys haven't stepped up. And the same thing animated the Boondocks. The Boondocks acted like the only racism that was still existed was like microaggressions or clueless, goofy white people, you know, saying effed up things and all that stuff. So, but everything is there. The stuff that investors say about getting away from Blackistan. I mean, the woke people just use fake smokescreen stuff like, you know, black homophobia stats that aren't true, or all these different things to disguise it. But back then, it was okay to just say, you know, whatever. But what's funny is this guy now is writing all these books and things about racism. And I'm like, what?
But you're a racist. Like, I mean, you're anti-black yourself. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think people are racist, but he's definitely anti-black.
You totally disagree with what, Huey Freeman? I'm
yeah, you gotta be specific.
Yeah, because also we have a couple minutes delay, so we don't always see your thing in real time. Yeah. So he just wrote a Black Batman comic. Yeah, he just wrote a whole book about racism and so check this out. He wrote a Black Batman comic.
But so that scares me in a way, because what I mean scares me. Well, I guess it does, because it confirms everything I've always said, which is it's a certain type of Negro that gets in these positions, and now they're in these positions allegedly to help Black people and to give us quote unquote representation, and they doing shit like this.
And you know what? His stuff does attack racism, but what the racism he attacks is racism against people like him. Like, you know, when I'm in a because I read some of the comic he did, and he reinterpreted all the old superhero stories so that the Black superheroes are being treated racistly by the white superheroes. So like Black Lightning, because I was kind of curious when I heard that he was going to be tackling racism. So let me look. And it's really workplace racism that's really going on. And it's like how Superman and Batman don't respect Black Lightning enough. So I'm like, okay, this is you. This is like, you know, it's still an extension of your old article where it's like, hey,
it's respectability politics to shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're as qualified as our white peers, and we're not getting the same breaks. It's kind of like how all those Black activists turned the first Black Lives Matter into Oscars So White. You know what I mean? Yeah. So okay, I see what Huey, what I said in particular.
I'm not saying what is he saying? Oh,
I said specifically the Martin Luther King speech. The Martin Luther King speech is exactly what I'm saying is like the John Ridley speech. I'll give you
I just realized Huey Freeman is not liking your critiques on Boondocks.
Yeah, exactly. It's very. I get it. I get it. But I'll show what I mean. I'll show the actual speech because
We had a whole show we talked about.
Yeah, and if you remember the speech, we played the speech on the show.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Last time I think I was on here. So that was like a week ago.
yeah. How long is that? I'm trying to think if it's worth replaying it. It's 2 minutes and 41 seconds. But okay, for people who haven't seen that one, hold on.
I mean, it's always good to watch stuff again because you can catch stuff you didn't notice before.
Brothers and sisters, please.
So
Someone just turn off.
King looked out on his people and saw they were in great need. So he did what all great leaders do. He told them the truth.
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
He just said what I think he said.
Is this it? This is what I got all those ass whoopings for? I had a dream once. It was a dream that little black boys and little black girls would drink from the river of prosperity, freed from the thirst of oppression. But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggas?
Okay, like how is that different? I just don't see. It's the same thing. We fought for all this stuff back in the day, and we got all this stuff, and you guys are squandering it by being niggers. So to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see the big difference. And then when you go back to John Ridley's thing, it says
the part where he says our parents they won civil rights. So I thought that sentence in itself was a little weird to me. I was like, you don't ever hear it phrased that way. Like we won it, like it's over. Like we've done all the work that could possibly be done.
But that was the implication of the Boondocks thing too. But that's what I'm saying. That was the thought process at the time. That institutionalized racism was gone. All that was left was interpersonal, and that it was one. I'll find it here. Yeah, let me tell you about my generation of Black Americans. First off, he's talking about he's gonna brag about himself. And this is what Gen Xers do, and this is a self-criticism of Gen Xers. We act like receiving what the Boomers fought for was somehow our accomplishment, right? We Gen Xers didn't really do much, but we act like we did just because we
do that.
Yeah, we do that a lot. Like we used to have credit for hip hop. I'll give that, but a lot of other stuff, no. Let me tell you about my generation of Black Americans. We are the inheritors of the deal. Inheritors. You're patting yourself on the back for inheriting something. The deal forced upon the entrenched white social, political, and legal establishment, my parents' generation, and Boomers are full of themselves too, because most Boomers were not doing shit. It was a handful that the rest of them were telling, you're going to fuck it up for all of us. You know what I mean? But going on, won the struggle for civil rights. So that's the same thing that's going on in the Boondocks clip, that they won, and now what they won is being squandered. My parents' generation won the struggle for civil rights. The deal, we Blacks take what is rightfully ours, and you, the aforedescribed establishment, will get citizens who will invest the same energy and dedication to raising families and working hard and being all around good people. So yeah, basically the white people give Black people what is rightfully theirs, which, unless reparations happen and I missed it, Black people never got what was rightfully theirs. And in return, Black people so basically white people upheld their end of the deal and ended racism. And I think there's a part where he actually says, here we go. This is the part you might have been thinking of. If we as a race could win the centuries-long war against institutionalized racism, which is a crazy sentence.
That's the part I was like, if we could win it, like we won it already? I didn't know it was over.
But that
last I checked, the crack epidemic was the 80s. And a lot of our people got locked up. A lot of kids have been in foster care. A lot of our communities still have not recovered. There was white flight, corporate flight, all these things happened that affected all of us in the 80s and 90s, but somehow we achieved this thing that we've been fighting. What the fuck are you talking about?
This was a very specific trajectory. And I'll tell you when it peaked, when Obama won. This is like a year before Obama wins. So you got to keep thinking for these people, because this is what happens sometimes. Sometimes you need to reach the pinnacle of something to realize that it's not really shit. So, we're like a year out from Obama. This is November 2006. We're like 2 years out from Obama. And I think when Obama happened and they saw how bad he was being treated and there was no place to go but down, that he was just a figurehead, and then all the police brutality started up again. I think that kind of killed this idea, but there used to be this real idea. It's hard to even think about it now, but that institutionalized racism and the worst of it was gone. And that made people free. I think that's part of also what made people think they were free to make fun of themselves in front of white people, because there was this kind of naive belief in the goodness of white people. And Chris Rock even says it himself in a way when they ask him why he regretted that N-words versus black people joke. He said it was because it gave too many white people the feeling that they had the right to use it. So he had his own Dave Chappelle moment but to be blindsided by that, you have to have some kind of naive belief in the goodness of white liberal people. And this guy has it too. He really thinks white liberal people really bent over backwards to help white people and gave everything they could and ended institutionalized racism, and they had nothing left to do. It was only for black people left to do things. And I think that's probably animated what was happening with D.L. Hughley and Damon Wayans, where it's like, it's okay to make fun of these black women with these people because none of these people are really racist. They're good white liberal people. They can laugh at this and not harbor racism. And that I think that's what happened with Dave Chappelle too. With Dave Chappelle, he was naive, and when he realized it, to his credit, he dropped it all. When he finally realized how they were taking his jokes and they were laughing in the wrong spirit and stuff. But this is especially ugly, I think, the John Ridley one.
I what you were just saying a second ago about seeing how Obama was getting treated, and then that was like, oh shit. I find it to be really interesting too, because that's often the case where you'll get these Negroes who get up and talk shit about us like they not black, and then they get what they call a nigga wake up call.
Yeah.
Like I always trip off of that shit. Like, but what's funny is you would think even with that wake up call that they would then go back and say, yo, there's actually a lot of issues got to address systemically as well. They don't do that. They just play like, oh, I've achieved all these things, so I'm good. They should have been treating me better. So that's what we're going to work on, treating people like me better in your space.
Okay, Huey Freeman clarified. He says he wasn't disagreeing about the speech, but the end of the episode is some whack voteps. That's even worse. Do you know what the big thing black people have to do to make things right? To go vote and fight against.
I don't even remember that episode, but
yeah, that was even worse. That was some old votep become a Democrat. Basically, after the speech, they get motivated by MLK to vote against Bush and to storm the White House. He makes it a Bush versus Democrats thing. It buys into the whole fiction that white liberals are our best friends. You know what I'm saying? It's still the same spirit of the speech. It's the same thing that John Ridley was saying, that whereas Martin Luther King bashed white liberals as much as he bashed white conservatives. He even said that the white moderate is a bigger problem. Martin Luther King wouldn't say the solution to stop being niggers is to go. Maybe I could find that end of the clip, but yeah,
I think
the end
too
of
many people get caught up in one strategy, and they don't realize that there's multiple strategies. Because we have to remember too. One, there wasn't just Martin Luther King's work, right? There were multiple people doing multiple types of different things in their communities or whatever, right? Not everybody agreed with desegregation. People never talk about that. As far as black people and why they didn't believe in desegregation, right? It wasn't because what white people's reasons were. The other thing though is I think people get caught up in that being one of the strategies, as opposed to saying, okay, well, we tried that strategy. What's a more effective way to implement that strategy, or a whole different strategy to begin with, right? And I think because we idealize and we've been taught to idealize Martin Luther King and that movement in a very white way. So I'm not even saying idealize it for us, idealize it in a very white way. I think that's part of the reason why we're so caught up in that strategy being the strategy, which always gets you stuck in, well, like where this guy got stuck in, John really got stuck in, which is we've already achieved these things. Like we vote now, we are desegregated allegedly, right? We're able to live where we want to live, right? And a lot of these, I think, because they're so caught up in like that being the marker, that thing happens and we're all on TV now, we're represented, everything's good, to the point where they don't think they realize that that's not the reality. So we need a whole nother strategy. Like that voting shit is not going to get us anywhere if we don't have a strategy for the voting. They also had candidates they were putting in power in certain places. People don't talk about that. The local communities were also trying to vote in specific people from their communities into certain positions. Like there were also other organizing strategies, not just, hey, everybody go vote because your ancestors died.
Yeah, but on top of that, Martin Luther King, he didn't think LBJ, the Democrat, was a great guy. When he talked about the white moderate, when he critiqued white liberals, like he wasn't a Voltep. He wasn't someone who thought the problem was the Democrats. This is what he said in his letter from a Birmingham jail. He said, "I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been greatly disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached a regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to quote-unquote order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a quote-unquote more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I had hoped that the white moderate, and the white moderate means the white liberal or white Democrat, would understand that law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. I had hoped that the white moderate will understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obvious negative peace, in which the Negro has passively accepted his unjust plight, to a substantive and positive peace in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human responsibility. I was going to jump to. Actually, it goes on and on, but he basically keeps going on. Like, he was not somebody who would be happy just to get a Democrat or a liberal voted in. But this is the prescription. This is the part that Huey Freeman is saying, the good end that makes up for what Martin Luther King did in the Boondocks episode. So this after he finishes the speech, right? And check this out. I mean, the whole thing is just black shit lib Votep stuff.
How did you find that and read at the same time? It's like magic.
Oh, I just have Google Foo.
Do what you can.
That was the last time I saw Dr. King. But the story doesn't end there.
So mind you, before this, he says he's going to Canada, which is something that liberals used to always say, like, because Bush is in office. So he's just basically the equivalent of someone who just thinks getting rid of Trump solves the problem of getting a Democrat in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Speech was replayed the entire next day on the cable news channel.
So now the whole John Ridley type speech is played, and that inspires people, telling black people that they're niggers and they haven't lived up to the promise that white people, gave them. White liberals did their part, and you didn't do your part. So mind you, the context is already that white liberals have done their part, and black people haven't repaid the white liberals or the black boomers enough, and they're the ones who dropped their part in the bargain, right? So remember that the white liberals did their part, the black people didn't do their part. Remember that context for what comes next.
Then something unexpected happened. People got angry.
Nobody knows exactly what to attribute to the sharp decline in African American dropout rate. That is every African American player in the NBA refusing to play until there is a full troop withdrawal.
Billionaire Bob Johnson apologized to Black America for the network he founded.
The White House and Congress are receiving an unprecedented amount of calls from irate African Americans.
And the revolution finally came.
The mob is refusing to disrupt.
The president is urging everyone to stay.
So what the mob did, the revolution, is fighting the Republican. That's the revolution. The revolution is to be a good, to back the white liberal. That was your problem. Now you're finally repaying the white liberal and doing your duty by getting Bush out of office. The whole problem is Bush, not white people.
What year was this again?
I forget, but Bush was in office when this happened, because his politics is all just white Democrat. I mean, black Democrat. Well, black Democrat is white Democrat politics. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, but that's not black empowerment. That's just
angry black people mad at Bush.
Yeah, and finally repaying the white Democrat for all the good things that he did. I'll tell you the exact year of the episode. It was 2006, January. Same, and remember, John Ridley's thing came out in November 2006, and I bet you very much he was inspired by this episode. They both came out the same year, and John Ridley's came out 10 months after. Yeah. So
this low-key kind of reminds me of, so I know I tend to do this a lot, but when I'm related back to hip-hop, think of that hip-hop era, right? 2000, 2001 till before Obama got elected. There was a lot of political hip-hop. Everybody was anti-Bush. All the underground rappers started blowing up. Remember, Immortal Technique blew up around that time. He just had mixtapes.
Yeah.
George Bush, Bin Laden didn't blow up the projects. It was you, nigga. It was you. That was Mos Def and Immortal Technique. And who else? What else was going on? Raucous Records was dropping shit all the time. Talib Kweli and all them. And that was like the whole. I remember that whole thing. And one of the things that used to irritate me, though, is in the hip hop spaces. Not saying necessarily the artists did this, but the hip hop spaces that were all into the, the conscious hip hop. They pretty much had this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
They had very much this. We're the smart woke Negroes who are really about social justice, and y'all are just niggas over there doing nigga shit.
I never thought about it, but you're right. Especially when they used to hate the mafioso rap and the shiny and bling rap. I never thought about it, but you're right.
They were hating on the southern rap. Remember, that was the whole
and mumble rap. Yeah, I never thought about it.
No, it was crunk. It was the crunk era, and they were dramatic crunk. And I always thought that was really interesting how divisive in hip hop that was, and it was pretty much this perspective. And if you remember, the hip hop community was all about Boondocks. Like they were rallied. That was a part of that movement when Boondocks. Yeah, all that was kind of the same shit.
And not just that, the Boondocks was very much a champion of that style of hip hop. Like that theme song is totally out of that style. You know what I mean? And Mos Def, they used to have Mos Def on to play Gangstalicious, and he would do that kind of voice. Yeah, you make a good point. They go together very uncoincidentally. Like there's a reason why they go together. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I wouldn't be surprised if he had some kind of. Oh, it's interesting. Apparently, John Ridley has some kind of connection to Boondocks and Aaron McGruder. This is interesting.
Wow.
Okay,
how did you find that out?
I just found it.
Oh, this is a good question. Has rap regressed or stagnated politically from that era? I don't think it's. I think this is honestly, this is my opinion. I think when Obama got in office, people started getting softened up. Obama was bringing rappers to the White House. See, there weren't outside of Lupe. I don't remember too many rappers going at Obama. So I think that's kind of what happened. I think it just kind of fell off. Now, when Donald Trump got into office, you did have, or right before he got in office, you had like "Fuck Donald Trump" and those songs. You had a few songs about some things, but none of those songs got really nearly as big as like, at least in the hip hop community, as they did back then. Because I feel like it was like every day was a new anti-Bush statement, anti-Bush song.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it wasn't just like now where everybody was mad at Trump. People were mad at Bush, but I think only in hip hop I saw it get to the level of really like hating Bush.
I found something really interesting. John Ridley and Aaron McGruder wrote the screenplay to Red Tails together.
Wait, they did Red Tails together?
Yeah, they were the writers of Red Tails.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Which I always find the story about the Tuskegee Airmen a really crazy story for Black people to be so proud of. I'm not saying that that's not good, that they were great fighters, but they were trying to keep themselves alive. But I think the fact that we act like they're some type of American hero, it always irritates me. Thank you, Ados Truth.
Yeah, thank you, big time.
Big up Vita. Oh, hey. Relevant rap about old school woke hip hop heads. Thank you. I appreciate that's a big donation too. Thank you.
Just for completion's sake, this is how it ends. So they put all their effort against Bush, and that's the revolution, and they get. And Oprah Winfrey is elected president. That's the big win. That's what the thing. That's the dream. That's the dream solution that can come from all of this. That's the ultimate realization of Martin Luther King's dream. You get called a bunch of N-words and say that you let the white liberals down. Then you storm Bush, and the system is still intact. But now representation happened. Oprah Winfrey's president. So yes, I'm saying. I don't really think he balanced it with an ending that showed, pro-blackness. I thought it was just more that respectability stuff,
Yeah. I like this comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, T.
Now, let's get one last thing. You guys are right. He did go in on Obama later, and I do respect him for that. He definitely took an anti-Obama.
John Ridley or Aaron McGruder?
Aaron McGruder did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, I was talking about rappers. I wasn't even talking about Aaron McGruder earlier, just in case anybody thought that. I always think it's interesting that George Lucas did Red Tails. It's funny because I thought it was interesting too. And people were, I think at the time, or I don't know if he's still with her or not. I know he was married to a Black woman. People tried to say that was like why he was like pro-Black, because he was married to this Black woman, which I never felt like a Black person married to a white person is like radicalizing the white person. But okay.
She is known for doing a lot of donations and stuff. She does donate a lot of his money to Black causes. I will give her that.
Great. I mean, it doesn't make you radical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's radical. Yeah, because I mean, first off, if you're married to a billionaire, you can't be radical.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm not saying she's radical, but I do think she puts her money where her mouth is as far as like being pro-Black. She does a lot of pro-Black stuff. His wife. I was looking into her, and I was because I always say like I don't care.
She could have been influenced to his red tail dreams.
He's been obsessed with this project for a while, and so I'm not sure if she's responsible.
For a while.
What's that?
Wasn't he married to her for a while, or isn't he?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know which came first, if he was married to her into Red Tails. But I know a lot of people told me it wasn't good though. Did you see it? I never saw it.
It was bad. Honestly, the trailer didn't make it look that interesting to me, so I never watched it. And I heard it was bad already. And I made the people who told me it was bad and what they didn't like about it, gave me enough of a warning not to watch it. Because whenever I didn't heed those warnings, I was always mad. Like I didn't heed when people warned me about The Help, and I watched that shit, and that shit was so angeringly bad.
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with me. It was people I trust who said they didn't like it, and because of the people who said they didn't like it, I kind of but Lucas claimed that he had the idea since 1988, but I don't know when he married his wife.
I mean, he also could just be saying that shit. You know how
That's true. People lie, yeah, especially
when it comes to movies and TV, they all lie. So I don't believe half the shit they say in these press releases or these press statements.
Yeah, people are warring in the chat. Look, Huey Freeman, I don't agree with his take, but he's got a right to his take. You guys don't have to be.
Oh, are they getting mad at Huey? No,
Yeah,
we don't do that here.
Yeah, there's no need to do that. I mean, we can disagree with each other and not. I don't think he's saying anything.
Unless he's disrespectful, which he has never been, from what I've seen. I don't think we should be going in on him.
Yeah, I've never seen Huey Freeman be disrespectful.
Never.
As far as I can tell, unless he did something in this chat that I missed and it flew by, but I didn't see anything personally. Yeah, maybe for movie night, I might watch Red Tails because I've never seen it.
I'll watch it with you guys if you guys watch Red Tails.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll keep my expectations low, and we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, this is just all the stuff I was trying to say. It made me think that maybe a lot of this bad press that we're having now with black men. Maybe this is our payback for when we had the spotlight and we kind of squandered it to a degree, man. I think we did a lot of fuckery in the spotlight in the 2000s.
What do you mean?
Oh no, all this stuff that I'm talking about, where we were at the center of attention. You know what I mean? I feel like now the new vogue is black women.
Black women. Yeah, like what you were saying earlier. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. and we get kind of we go kind of in on them because they're the ones giving us the most recent examples. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, like, when we had the steering wheel or we were the mascots, we weren't doing much better. I would say arguably we might have been doing worse, because that John Ridley thing is way worse than anything.
That was bizarre.
Yeah.
I'm actually genuinely shocked because I never watched 12 Years a Slave, not because of him or any other reason. I just didn't want to watch it. But I would have assumed, based on the stuff that I've heard about the movie, that he'd have a much more political perspective than he clearly does. He has a very, when I say political, I mean like Black Power sort of perspective. So that was actually really shocking. So I didn't know anything about him until you read that, and then I Googled him and found out his dad was an ophthalmologist. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah. I know we've been on for a while, but I wanted to do, if you're done, I don't know if you're done yet.
Oh no, go ahead. You sat through my itinerary. It's only fair.
So one of the things I also want to talk about, because I know you have the food titles like Black History Month or something. But I definitely wanted to talk about that too, because I've been feeling like, to me, Black History Month is a very special time of the year for me, because I'm obsessed with Black history, as you guys know. To me, it should be a time to celebrate. Yet, when I'm on Twitter, I'm seeing all types of ridiculous ass conversations. Somebody chose the opening day of Black History Month to talk shit about Rosa Parks. I've seen people complain about all types of Black figures in history, and yet nobody. I was like, why are y'all not just sharing information about people that we've never heard of? So I was trying to make it my mission to highlight and uplift people that existed, that have done some amazing things that we've never heard about or we rarely ever hear about. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you see I tweeted about Sister Rosetta Thorpe. I tweeted about Eartha M.M. White, which that one didn't get nearly as much traction because nobody knows who she is.
Oh, I don't know who she is. Please tell me.
I'll tell you who she is in a second. The other person I tweeted about was Queen Mother Moore, another person I didn't know existed until someone put me onto her. So I started posting some different shit up, and people were really like, wow, I'd never heard of her. Rosetta Tharpe, nobody had ever heard of her. And she's literally, and I hadn't heard of her really her name mentioned a few times. I was just like on some rabbit hole on YouTube. I was like, oh shit, this woman's amazing. Oh shit, she's like the godmother of everybody in rock and roll, right? And I think to me that's more important to highlight people we've never heard of. So with that said, one of the people I want to highlight right now, I probably should have pulled up a page. Maybe I'll do that now. T, you're better at it. Can you do it for me? Her name is Eartha M. White.
Okay.
And she was, if you could just find a website with her picture or some words, but she was an entrepreneur. They think this is the thing. She was a big entrepreneur. What she's mostly known for is her philanthropy and her work. The majority of her profits from her businesses went back into her community. And her birthday is the same as mine, which is why she's so special to me, November 8th. But she was adopted by this family. They had, I guess, like okay money. She ended up going to school. She started some businesses. She became she had a laundry service. She had an employment service. She had a taxi service. She had her own mill. She ended up being the single largest employer of Black people in Jacksonville, Florida. And helped. So basically, not only, she wasn't just creating businesses to get wealthy, she was trying to create jobs for her people. And nobody ever talks about her. Nobody even knows that she existed. And she has done, there are things named after her she has the Clara White Mission, which is named after her mother, still exists today. And it's one of them, and it's like a well-known organization that's known for doing some great philanthropy. She didn't even have a lot of money. She would still have to take out loans to build new foundations because she was just that entrenched in her community. So I just felt like she's somebody you guys should really learn about. We've never heard about. Nobody ever honors her on Black History Month.
Yeah, I never heard of her myself. But you know who else is even like that? Even A. Philip Randolph, he's known, but even he's not really as known as he should be. There's a lot of people.
Right. But I had at least heard his name. I had never heard him before. I had to literally Google Black women entrepreneurs for another show I was doing. And that's when I found out. I learned about her, learned about Clara, what's her name? Clara Brown, who was another woman. She was a laundress and a cook who was a slave. She was separated from her daughter. She ends up moving west or traveling west to cook and launder, trying to survive while everybody else is moving west. She gets to Colorado. She saves up some money. She figures out that she can do laundry for the people that are coming to be miners in Colorado. She creates a little laundry business. She starts getting her money. She saves her money up and uses it to invest in some of the mines in Colorado. She ends up being super wealthy. Again, another woman who said, okay, I'm wealthy. How do I help people with it? She was helping people get reunited with their families after slavery. And her whole mission was trying to get reunited with her own daughter, which never even happened. So
I'm trying to find if there's a book on her life, and maybe we can invite the person as a guest, because I would love to see if anybody wrote a book. I'm sorry. I'll go on. I just want to know if you know of any books on her life, if you've come across any.
I haven't. Actually, I haven't. I just kind of researched her online and then just kind of like kept looking at different stuff. But there's so many people. Biddy Mason's another person. Like there are so many Black people in history we never hear about, we never talk about. I focus on Black women. You should focus whoever you want to focus, not you personally, but whoever's listening, focus whoever you want. For me, Black women, that's how I draw my empowerment. So that's why I was researching them. And I feel like if I had learned about so many of these people growing up, I think my perspective on myself would have been so different. Because these were also women who weren't focused on what they looked like necessarily, right? But their focus was on how do I build for my people? It wasn't how do I get a business and get rich and talk about Black wealth in this way that's really about hoarding it for me and getting my friends jobs. It was about how do I get my community employed? How do I make sure my community is set straight? So that to me, and Annie Turnbull Malone is another one. She was the founder. She was actually the beginning of the Black business hair care industry. It wasn't Madam C.J. Walker. She stole the shit. That's a whole nother conversation. But Annie Turnbull Malone is another person who never gets honored. There's a day and a street for her in St. Louis, and the people in St. Louis don't even know who she is. My mother's from St. Louis, lived her whole life. I had to tell who Annie Turnbull Malone was. Annie Turnbull Malone was a chemist. She had her own chemical plant where she made her own hair care products. She had a sales team. She had an international company. You never heard about her. Never once have I heard about her when I was growing up. didn't even exist. And she was employing and empowering so many Black women, including Madam C.J. Walker, which is where she learned how to be Madam C.J. Walker. But again, these are things that are important to me. So for this Black History Month, I really want to encourage you guys to research more Black history, highlight those people, talk about them on your timeline, talk about them with your friends. Black History Month, like I said, for me is a really important time because we don't know our history. And I think it's a really dope time to celebrate what we have done and who we are. And I really want to encourage all of you to research more, share that information. It doesn't even mean that people have to be perfect human beings. I hate that shit too. Look at the context of the time, look at what they were talking about. What was their core thing that made them important to our history and to our livelihoods? So that's what I want to say.
But also these people who want people to be perfect, those are the same people. They every time something about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, they'll excuse everything under the sun. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, oh, Martin Luther. They'll pick up stuff like, hey, Frederick Douglass, he cheated on his wife, which is not proven at all. But then Kamala Harris was sleeping with a married man. Like, if that's what you really care about, to me, none of it matters to your work. But if you did care about it, why doesn't the Kamala Harris thing bother you, or the Andrew Gillum? And it's like, crickets, so it's like, that's the other thing. If these people were actually consistent about their moral pearl clutching, you know what I mean? It would be one thing. But there's people who just did something bad a month ago that they like and they're fine with, you know what I mean? So it's,
absolutely.
Stop it. None of it's sincere.
Of course it's not.
Like the hashtag.
I saw that.
Oh, shout out to Rock the Mic. Rock the Mic has been helping us out at the Amazon wish list, and much appreciated. You have to go to champagnesharks.com, or if you look in the description, you'll see a link to the Amazon wish list. We have to get Vita a ring. We have to get Vita a ring light and a camera.
I definitely need that. So I saw someone say something about the Netflix thing about where they tried to frame the rivalry between Annie Turnbull Malone and Madam C.J. Walker as some like colorism shit, which was some bullshit. It wasn't a real thing. Annie Turnbull Malone hired all types of Black women. Also, they didn't even. This is how disrespectful that fucking show was, or that movie was, whatever the fuck it was. They didn't even name Annie Turnbull Malone. They call her Addie Monroe.
That's weird.
Weird. And the thing is,
probably for libel, so that they can't get called out, because you know what, the person behind it was the same person behind Harriet.
Yeah, and this is the thing though, Madam C.J. Walker's granddaughter or great granddaughter was behind both the book and of Madam C.J. Walker and that movie. So she was a part of that too, and she knew certain things weren't true. In fact, a lot of Madam C.J. Walker's legacy isn't true. Her family lied about most of it. She wasn't that wealthy. She wasn't nearly as successful as Annie Turnbull Malone, and she died broke. She just was real flashy, so she was most famous. But yeah, that show really pissed me off because they did frame it as some sort of colorism thing, and people say, well, it was supposed to be sort of based in true life, but not with kind of fiction, whatever that bullshit they try to tell you. Then you can't sell it to me as some sort of Black woman empowerment thing if it's a lie. Number one. Number two, why would that have to be the story? If you can just make up stories and choose stories, why was that the story you chose? Why was it about some light-skinned, dark-skinned BS? Why wasn't it about some entrepreneur business type competitiveness? Like just some pure business shit. But it wasn't that. They tried to make it out like Madam C.J. Walker was inspired because Addie Monroe was a fucking colorist bitch, And I thought that was totally disrespectful. And LeBron James, I think, was also executive producer of that. And I really felt like that whole thing was a complete disrespect to Annie Turnbull Malone and to so many other Black women who were entrepreneurs. So I feel like that was a horrible way to portray them. And
everyone I've seen who likes it online is always one of those horrible people I can't stand. Like, it's always the same kind of people that will be the ones who will bring up stuff about Rosa Parks and Claudia Colvin and being about colorism. Like it's a certain type of person I've seen that really likes that movie, and it's always like the worst type of people.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody said, Vita, can we buy you takeout when you come on so you don't prematurely have to leave due to not eating? Yeah.
You know what? We're gonna put Vita's Grubhub in the list of links.
Y'all's funny. No, I'm actually a very picky eater, and most takeout doesn't have what I can eat because I'm trying to be extremely, extremely healthy. But thank you. I do appreciate that. It's funny that you guys notice that when I start getting hungry because, it is dinner time. And, I get off work and I come here. Although today I didn't work. I was waiting all day for Feed Vita. I was waiting all day for the fucking, what do you call those people? Water heater people. And they gave me the window of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I couldn't even go to work today.
Look, see that? I told you, Vita was worried about me using the word simp. I said, no, it's simp. It's been reclaimed. You know, what they said they were going to do for the N-word, but didn't happen. Simp has been reclaimed. It's become a positive. It's
Y'all are so funny. So Vita, you said that Cash App. Confess to Vita Cash App. You're funny. Support Champagne Sharks. That's where, if you want to support me, you have to support Champagne Sharks. There are people who genuinely believe light-skinned slaves were privileged. Yo, so do y'all see my tweets when I talk about that shit? That shit really pisses me off. What is up with this who had it better on the plantation mentality?
Oh, yeah.
That shit drives you niggas were on slaves on a plantation. I don't give a fuck if you was in the house. I don't give a fuck if you was in the field. I don't care if you was a welder. It don't fucking matter. You were your own person. That's the fucking problem. I don't want to hear any more of this competition to who had it worse. Who gives a fuck? Like,
but they think like that now. That's their thinking about right now is when they're worried about Biden versus Trump and who gets jobs. All that's about being the best slave. It's like they're thinking about that way right now. As in, hey, being a black person working under Trump is sacrilege, or talking to Trump, but dealing with Jim Crow Joe is woke.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody said they blame. Oh, by the way, thank you, I hope I say your name right. Pensive of Door. I appreciate that. My dinner money. Yeah. So I blame Malcolm X. I get that, and it's funny you say that. The problem, though, is I think people take a metaphor and a story he's trying to tell to make a point and trying to apply it much broader than I think he meant. Because you listen to when he's talking about it, he's talking about a mentality more than anything. He's not talking about skin color. He's talking about a mentality. He's talking about not just because you were in the house, it's the mentality that comes with a certain perspective. So that's all he was talking about. So
Yeah, exactly. What Martin Luther King was saying, he wasn't saying that the house slave had it made. He's mocking the house slave for thinking he has it made.
Right.
But the reason why the house slave is laughable is because what Malcolm's saying is that he's still a slave. That's what makes his thing about we sick boss stupid. But so yeah, Martin, Malcolm, I said Martin. Malcolm X wasn't like saying you should be jealous of the house slave, but the house slave really did have it good. His whole point is you're still a slave. Why do you think you have it better than anybody? Yeah, so
exactly.
Yeah.
So
and like you said, it's a metaphor on top of that.
Yo, you guys are so sweet. Thank you, Justin. Shout out to PB and Luwak the God. I saw you as well. Thank you to everybody. I appreciate you all. I really do. Y'all make me feel, it's so crazy. And I know I share this all the time when I talk about my trauma shit, but y'all don't even realize like this, I would have never been on a camera a few years ago. Like this would have never happened. I was literally terrified of cameras. And I was so self-conscious about even being on like doing something like Champagne Sharks. And I remember the first time I got a negative comment about how I looked and Kenny wasn't having that shit. So like Kenny was like, nah, you out of here, like done, And
wasn't that the guy that ended up being an incel or something?
Probably. I think so.
He's probably related to that dude. Yeah.
Yeah. And that other guy that made whole hate videos because you guys added me to the show, which I thought was weird. But yeah, so the fact that you guys support me and show me so much love, that makes me feel really good because like I said, this would have never happened. I was so scared of doing something like this. And you guys make me feel really, really good. So I really appreciate you.
I think it's a nice positive place to end it, unless you have anything more you want to say.
No, that's it. I gotta go eat dinner. So.
Oh, yeah, there we go. You guys didn't feed her in time, so it's too late. If you got here earlier, fed her earlier, the delivery guy be showing up right now and she can eat on camera. But I mean, That's gonna be our next thing. Have you heard of mukbang? I think it's called MUKBANG. It's
What
where
is that?
it's these videos where people will watch somebody eat live stream, and they'll just sit there
Oh, I
and watch
have
you
seen
eat.
something like that.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have Champagne Sharks mukbang. We're gonna have Vita get her delivery, and then she's gonna.
Yo, y'all don't remember? I think when I first started doing this, I used to have like some grapes or something. I used to be trying to eat while I was sitting here. You look at some old videos when I started. I was definitely trying to like eat while on here.
Yeah, this is funny. This is true. Clubhouse has so many colorisms room, but last night, uh,
Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about that.
oh, every single day on Clubhouse, it's like they wake up and start this room once a day, which is are biracial people really black? And my thing is, I don't care which way you fall on it. I just want to hear the same conversation every day. Make a decision, vote, and stop making the room. I don't want to see the room every day. Like, why did you just debate this 12 hours every single day? Like either biracial people are black or they're not black. Whichever way you fall, I don't care. But I just get sick. Clubhouse is the same 6 rooms, 12
But
hours
this
a day.
one is pretty wild because it's like our light-skinned people. The fact that we
Yeah.
recognize them as light-skinned clearly means we think they're black. Like that's what the division is, that they're light and they're black. So that is stupid.
Yep, that's the new one. Now, last night I saw our light skinned black people actually, or light skinned people, light skinned.
People, are they white people of black people?
Yeah, are
Oh
they
no,
black?
the one you said was, are they black? This
Yeah.
one,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
one that Rock the Mic is talking about is something different, I think.
I mean, they might have evolved to that, but the one I saw last night was our light skinned people black. And it was funny when that went up, and I went to that room, and there were a bunch of people claiming ADOS, but they took pains to say we don't affiliate with ADOS the politics. We mean ADOS the lineage. You know, they took pains to clarify that, but most of the people speaking in the room were ADOS. I can't say everybody was because I didn't hear everybody speak, but about half the moderators at least were. So when I put that thing up, I got 10 comments. Bet they were flag people. Bet they weren't Black Americans. I'm like, why is that your first answer to everything? Like that's the first thing. Like there's become this thing that no Black American coons have ever existed now or don't ever exist. I feel like
Oh my God.
that's what's happening on Twitter now. So then I brought up, I said, I can't speak for the whole room, but half the moderators did claim the lineage of ADOS. And then someone said, no, those are flag people pretending to be ADOS. I was like, I give
Listen, people have a determined belief and they stick with it. I think I even tweeted about that as well, about things. I was like, do y'all just like on this whole big internet, you have access to all types of people all over the world, all types of black people all over the diaspora. Y'all can only seem the ones that hate the people from where you're from. I don't know how y'all do this. There was a young lady that I was talking to right before I hopped on here. I'm actually probably gonna be a guest on here not too long soon. She's
Cool.
amazing. She's in Barbados, and we were talking, and she was totally like, there was no coon shit whatsoever. Like the whole thing was just like, yeah, we gotta be building. We all African. What the hell? Like we all African. In fact,
Yeah.
she was telling me about the anti-blackness that exists in Barbados because of white supremacy. And it was a really great conversation. I wish I had recorded it so you guys could see it because we did it on Zoom. But I just think it's really fascinating that for some reason people can't seem to find other black people in diaspora that fuck with them. It's like you guys have this belief that all people in the diaspora hate African Americans, or all African Americans hate Africans, or they always got some story about how we call them an African booty scratcher when we were in elementary school. Like y'all gotta let that shit go. We on a whole big ass internet. You can find black people who love African Americans anywhere in the fucking world. Just stop whining about the ones that say some coon shit all the goddamn time. Because the ones that say coon shit about African Americans, chances are they say coon shit about their own people. You don't even realize it.
I think something too that's a problem with the internet is there's never any middle ground anymore. So you have a bunch of people of Caribbean and African descent who'll be like, "Oh no, Caribbean and African people never say anything bad about Black Americans," and then you have some other people in response that'll be like, "No, that's all they do all day long." So it's like you have one people saying, "Oh, this never happens," and then another group saying, oh, this is all they ever do. They just sit up all day and bash Black Americans, and no one ever stops to think, hey, maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Let's talk and figure out honestly, what it is. So, yeah.
I actually don't, outside of the, like, being whatever the identifier is for Black Americans, I'm not, I identify as that. Like, I'm proud to be that. I have all the love for being a Black American, African American, whatever you want to call it, right? That does not mean I have to make enemies out of other parts of the diaspora. Like, I don't get that. And I see these, and it's not just one way. So I'm not going to say it's just African Americans to the other way. It's definitely shit I'm seeing all over Twitter. I need you guys to like learn how to like connect. I'm not saying you have to be a part of everybody's movement. I don't know. I stay in my lane. I don't join everybody's movement on shit. But I do believe you can connect with people. Like, just connect with them. Talk to them about some of this shit. You don't have to like be on there angry and then general. That's what I think what bothers me. You start generalizing the whole group of people in a whole place you've never even been to because some ignorant people on Twitter. That's where I get annoyed. But
yeah. I mean, I think that's a strong final statement. I think that's good. I'm gonna let you get.
Now I'm hot.
Food. Yeah. You got yourself heated. You got to cool down now. I'm actually gonna grab some food too, and
right,
head to sleep. But yeah, thanks, Vita. It's a good one. See, everyone's happier when Vita's here.
Y'all are so sweet.
Comments are popping. Everyone's happy. That's good. Yeah, man, and we got to get y'all got to come up with Vita solo ones too, man, because
I be scared to do them by myself because I feel like nobody likes them, but y'all say y'all like them, so
yeah. Look, people get happy when you show up. Oh, is this our Andrew? That's someone else. I thought it was someone else. Forget it. Yeah. So thanks everybody for coming out and thanks for supporting. We appreciate all y'all. And February, we should try to get a lot of Black History Month people on. I know CBS is coming back, so that's good.
Okay, so thank you, Huey Freeman. Thank you, everybody. I really do. Y'all are so encouraging. Y'all made me, so I'm gonna do it. I'm thinking about doing some. Hopefully I can get my license to do this, to teach this curriculum. I will be doing some parenting stuff too soon. Some of you guys have been asking me questions, some of the trauma ones I was doing about parenting stuff. So I have some stuff for parents as well. If I get my license, I'm allowed to actually do it.
Very cool.
I'll do that for you.
Jin Kaze, you are so wrong because there was one night, I don't know what we were on. We did like a 4-hour plus one.
Oh, I was on a 4-hour one before.
Yeah. No, he was saying this is our longest one. No, there was one where all four of us were on, and it was like a Saturday night. We went into like the morning. I saw the sun coming up. I was like, and people messed with us till the end. I don't know how they hung in there, but yeah. We had a lot of people.
None of us was doing shit. So we was just
yeah. It was a peak of quarantine. I think people were all crazy. All right, y'all. Be good.
Thank you, everybody.